The Gerontological Society of America, Meaningful Lives as We Age.
The photographic work of Chester Higgins Jr. wonderfully captures portraits of older African Americans, along with short narratives describing their experiences throughout the years. While his work highlights the culture of what it means to age, there are very few mediums that capture the collective voices of academic scholars, community leaders, public policy advocates, students, care providers, and others lending to the experiences of aging as an older adult in the U.S. More importantly, there are no social platforms that allow historically marginalized older adults to tell their stories and experiences. Today, we're taking a slightly different approach in how we discuss aging and the contributions of the many who guided this narrative. Our focus specifically highlights the contributions of historically Black colleges and universities, also known as HBCUs. Established in the early 19th century, HBCUs were created to educate Black students when they were not allowed to attend certain public and/or private, predominantly white institutions. With increasing enrollment, HBCUs are now being recognized for their progressive academic presence in the Black community, educating distinguished scientists, inventors, politicians, and world leaders. These institutions have similarly become increasingly integrated into the aging network by educating some of the most influential Black gerontologists and geriatric practitioners. I'm Dr. Tamara Baker, professor at UNC Chapel Hill and founding member and co-convener of the GSA's HBCU Collaborative Interest Group and alumna of two HBCUs, Norfolk State University and North Carolina Central University. And with me is Dr. Alyssa Gamaldo, professor at Clemson University and supporter of the HBCU Collaborative Interest Group. Today, we are honored to have a conversation with Mr. Lincoln Phillips, an alum and former soccer coach at Howard University, a world-renowned HBCU. What is more meaningful about this conversation is that Mr. Phillips is the first Black professional soccer coach in U.S. history, and under his tenure as coach, Howard University's soccer team became the first HBCU to win an NCAA championship, which is the focus of the film Redemption Song.
I much prefer Coach Phillips.
Okay, Coach. Yeah. Coach Phillips. Okay.
Yes. That is very, very important to me because I think that the highest respect that someone can give to me is call me Coach, because coaches shape lives. Doctors save lives. Coaches shape life. We are very important. Coaches and teachers, we are very, very important. So when I'm referred to as, I need to be called Coach. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I was so excited when we were having dinner and coming up with this idea of doing this podcast, which would be hopefully the first of many to come. And Coach Phillips would be that first guest. I mean, it was instantaneously, I went back to my room and I was writing on my laptop, coming up with the idea to put it down on paper. And I was thinking to myself, the best first guest to really fit, the mission of what we were trying to accomplish was definitely Coach Phillips, since his history with HBCU. For our listening audience, if you're not familiar with Coach Phillips, I strongly suggest that you definitely look him up. He's everywhere. If you do any type of search on Google or any preferred search engine, look up Lincoln Phillips, because he is got a phenomenal history of an experience. To just speak to his many accomplishments, he was the first Black professional soccer coach here in the U.S.
That's correct.
And he actually was the first Black coach to win an NCAA collegiate championship in 1971 and 1974. And he actually would call, I think it's still in the books, the first HBCU to ever win.
First and only.
Collegiate championship. So, I mean, I could go on and on about the narrative of Coach Phillips, but, I'm here today to really kind of focus on his accomplishments, but also speak to, as Tamara and I have talked about, how his life course has shaped him throughout his life and how it's having a role in terms of how he's aging. Because for those of you who don't know Coach Phillips or Lincoln Phillips, he is 82 years old.
82 years.
Young.
Yeah.
Yes, we can't make that mistake. 82 years young.
I make it a point not to let the old man in. I keep the old man outdoors. He knocks on the doors several times, but I never let him in.
So, many of us would never know that he's 82 years young because he is phenomenal in terms of what I envision as successful aging. So I think it's so important. I hope for our listening audience to understand and talk to someone like him who's had this rich experience, but also seems to be aging successfully. So I'm going to jump in to ask some questions because I think, Dr. Baker and I have always talked about, we've met individuals like you where we have like one-on-ones and it's just amazing, like, physically, functionally, mentally, just still performing at a heightened level. And the question is, what is the secret?
The secret is I just saw on my cell phone, I was scrolling through it there, and I saw a little blurb with Clint Eastman, and he was on the golf course. And, Clint Eastman he's 88, and something came up about his age, and he said, well, I'm 88. And he was playing golf with a country Western singer. And the singer said, I can't understand at 88, what are you doing? He said, well, I'm making a new movie. And he said, at 88? He said, yes. He said, I can't understand how you do it. He said, don't let the old man in. And the country Western singer thought it was such a profound statement. He went home right away and he made a recording on it. And it said, don't let the old man in. And it had a lot of pictures and videos where, an old man is at the door knocking and he's keeping him out. So I thought that was very profound. And I think that is one of the most important things, don't let yourself feel old. Mm-hmm. Okay? And always try to do something different. Mm-hmm. Something new, something that you're not accustomed to. For instance, you brush your teeth with your right hand all the time. Mm-hmm. Okay, brush it with your left hand. Mm-hmm. Brush it with your left hand. Look at a picture upside down. Mm-hmm. Okay, take a new route all the time, so it keeps the brain, away from that sameness, that same thing over and over and over again. The brain gets accustomed and it doesn't work very well. Mm-hmm. But when you challenge the brain to get into new ideas and go into new different areas, the whole brain starts firing. Mm-hmm. And that is very important, mm-hmm. to keep you fresh and always firing with all cylinders.
Mm-hmm. I always think about like going back in time. Were you getting that type of messaging? Were you always kind of thinking about, okay, I want to try new paths. I want to try new things. Is that something that you found yourself doing when you were in your 20s? And it's just been a consistent pattern that you've been following? Or did you notice that changed as you got older, that you're like, okay, now I'm going to try something new. I've been doing the same routine over and over, but I'm going to try something new.
Well, that's a good question. You're taking me back now. It's back in time, and my life has been one of a constant struggle. People look at struggle as something bad, but looking back, over the years, I see struggle. Struggle is something that's good. Struggle is God's gift. It makes you stronger. And throughout my life, from a kid, we were not poor, Dr. Gamaldo. We were not poor. but we were broke as hell. And we had to find a lot of different new ways to survive. And so I was always in that mode. And growing up, we had a lot of children, in and around the area. Of course, our yard was like a community center. Out of all the players, I was the worst in everything, whether it is soccer, cricket, you name it. And it did not feel good. I used to cry. My mother, thank God, my mother, who was my greatest inspirator, and my big sister, they used to comfort me. But what happened as a result of that, I cannot say that I, just took it upon myself and said, well, this is the right thing to do. And it just happened. I just felt that I had to train a little harder.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for instance, like the team would train 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I would train on the mornings of those 3 days, and Tuesday, Thursday, I would train twice. I would just do it, and then all of a sudden, that was around 8, 9, 10 years of age, 12, and whenever folks got together to pick two teams, there are 11 players on the team, okay? And we always got down to 11 and 12. So it always comes down to picking me last. But when I turned 14, all of a sudden, just all hell broke loose. I was the first person they wanted to get on their team. So, it was always a challenge, okay? And from there, there was a school called Queen's Royal College, and the top 5% of the students, best scholars, go to that school. So definitely academically, I was not really, I didn't make the cut, but because of all my friends who were there, and I just wanted to go. God found a way for me to go. I started to play at 16 years of age. I was playing so great. I was playing in the first division with the men and viewed as one of the top goalkeepers in the country, and so on at 16, And I remember one game in particular, and that's where your dad, Victor Gamaldo, and I met for the first time. Mm-hmm. He was 14, I was 17. And we just hit it off as though we were just playing soccer for centuries, And the games master at Queen's Royal College was the manager of that team. And I got into Queen's Royal College.
Mm-hmm.
It was the most difficult thing, one of the most difficult things for me, because academically I wasn't ready, But we had fantastic teachers,
mm-hmm.
fantastic teachers, and no one ever made fun of me. I would say, like, we're doing mathematics, and somebody will ask, the teacher will ask something like 10 and 10, and I would say blue, I was so off course, and sometimes even my friends, if they ask me something, they'll whisper the answer at the back of my ear. And the teachers took care of me. They didn't make fun of me.
Mm-hmm.
A good example. They would ask a question. I can't answer the question. And then he said, I remember Mr. Jones closing the book and says, well, Mr. Phillips, if you're on the soccer goalpost, on the soccer line, what is the distance from the soccer goal line to the 6-yard box? 6 yards. He said, fantastic. Mm. So what is the distance from the goal line to the 24-yard line? Mm. I said, 24 yards. He said, you're doing great. And I realized what he did. He took me into my comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And he applied the topic to soccer. Mm-hmm. I didn't understand it at the time, But looking back, but I had fantastic people, teachers in particular, who really helped me get over it. It's not being dumb or anything like that. It's just not understanding something and somebody coming in and saying, this is what you're doing. This is the way to go. And say, oh, okay, I can do that. But at that time, you need that help, and that person, teacher, must have the knowledge and understanding that is exactly what you need. It's a fantastic feeling. And from then on, I knew I was going to be either a teacher and coach. And that is what I've been over the years.
So that's very interesting because we talk about life course in our field, and we talk about how those early experiences really do impact how we age, and some of the things that we've encountered could have a meaningful impact as we get older. You talked about this idea of like having a good social support network that's helped you to navigate those early life challenges. So is that something that you felt definitely resonated as you got older, knowing that you had that social support network structure so young to help you kind of find your comfort zone to overcome challenges?
Exactly. You're quite correct. That social network, I grew up with my mother. My father was in a broken home. We never got married or anything like that. And he used to come home 2 or 3 times a week, but a fantastic father. Okay. And my mother was my everything. And my big sister, and I had a lot of aunts and uncles. And so a lot of cousins, so much. Then I had a batch of cousins down in the country. They had a farm, and they had a lot of fruit trees. I mean, all kinds of fruits you could think of. That used to be heaven. And they had another group of cousins up on the other side. They had 8 kids, and we would just play for the entire day. And so I grew up with that kind of social network. And fortunately for me, when I got older and I got married and I came to America, we had a social network that was fantastic. Okay, first of all, your father, Victor Gamaldo, got married to my wife's sister, so we were tight. Okay, and then her brother came up, and he got married and so on, and so we had that network. I mean, we had parties. Somebody sneezed, we had a party for that.
And that is true. I do remember that.
New Year's, and then when we got a little bigger, my wife's sister, which is Dr. Gamaldo's mom, we would have Thanksgiving there. And then we got a little bigger and so on, who are grown right now. And they always remember the fun and the laughter because obviously Victor, my best friend, and Dr. Gamaldo's dad, and we would go back over old stories. And those kids remember them. And we just used to eat a lot, had a lot of fun. The youngsters were playing. And that's the environment when I came to the United States for at least 20 years. And up until now, that still exists. What broke it up a bit was the pandemic, But we're looking forward to getting back together again and having that fun and that laughter and exchanging ideas and stories and so on. And we're looking forward. But that helped immensely in dealing with whatever problems I encountered along the way.
Yeah, especially with you coming to the U.S. and you came pretty much in the 60s.
Yes.
During critical historical events such as the Civil Rights Movement, and you were actually doing coaching, the professional coaching. You were coaching Howard. I mean, like, you were definitely facing a lot of experiences like racism and all sorts of things being in the public light. Like, how did those networks help with that?
Well, I'm sure that you brought that up. I came into the country. I was playing, as a matter of fact, I was playing with my national team, Trinidad and Tobago. We were playing in the Pan Am Games, and we won a bronze medal. Mm-hmm. First and only time we ever won a bronze medal. We played against Argentina, Colombia, Mexico. We beat all of them. And that was the biggest shock in the world. So United States was just about to start their professional soccer, the North American Soccer League. And several of us got contracts to come to the United States. And I remember vividly, we trained in Jamaica, January and February. And March, I came up and we were in a cinema, myself and two of my teammates. And my wife was supposed to come up the next week. And then on the screen, they said, ladies and gentlemen, we have an announcement to make. Okay. Will you please get up and leave quietly? Dr. Martin Luther King has been just shot.
Wow.
I didn't know what that was because I'm in the country. I was just a few. But by the time, and I'm living in Baltimore, by the time I reached outside, the Baltimore was burning. It was just one hell of an experience. And from there, I really got to find out what's going on. And then I was made coach of the Washington Darts. That was another opportunity that just landed in my lap there. And that was the first time that a Black coach had coached a professional team. And we won all our games. And from there, I went to Howard University. God led me to Howard University. Howard University has always been involved with all Black movements everywhere and anywhere in the world. Howard University has been the custodian of all Black activities. And it's when I got to Howard, I recognized what is going on here. All of a sudden, this college team started winning games, and everybody's against us. The officials were horrible, okay? Opposing players were spitting at us and calling us niggers, go back home, and we had to play in that environment. But with the experience that I had to let my players know, yes, they may call you a nigger, but what's your grade point average? You have a 4-point average? Great. You're an engineer? Great. So you're a nigger with a 4-point average and engineering. So what? So they can say whatever they want. I did not realize at that time what that statement meant. Mm-hmm. Because later on, the players over the years have acknowledged how important it was for them to deal in situations where there was racialism. Mm-hmm. I told them, listen, some of these players may not be racist, but they know if they call you nigger, and I use the word nigger because everybody keeps saying the N-word, the N-word, the N-word. It's nigger, They know that you're going to get mad and it's going to throw you off the game. So tactically, that's a good tactic to get you off your game. Mm. So what you have to do is to understand that it's a tactic. So don't get mad when they call your names. Get smart. Get smart. Don't do something that will get you out of the game or get you in trouble. You know what I'm saying? Do something that will hurt them more than anything else and help you more than anything else, and that is to score a goal. So anytime they call you any names, a goal we score. And very soon, the names stopped calling because we started pouring on some goals. And players have told me over the years, Coach, I remember when you used to tell us this, and we face it in life, and this is how we dealt with it. There was one of my players, an Ethiopian, at our 25th anniversary. His wife, a very soft-spoken Ethiopian came to me and said, Coach, I want to thank you for my husband. I said, what do you mean? She said, anytime they encountered any trouble in their lives, he would say, this is how we dealt with it at Howard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh my goodness. But I just said it, found ways of adjusting and not letting people throw you off course,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And again, I was able to do that because I had the confidence in everything because of my circle, my
Mm-hmm.
family circle. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I had good people around me, so I was able to impart those kinds of advice to my young Black players.
Mm-hmm. And it's also, it goes back to, to hear that part of the narrative, to hear your early life experience, and then going back to the beginning of our conversation where you're like, in terms of as you're getting older, you're willing to take these challenges, right? So it seems like there's this connection, right? Like all of these experiences seem, and correct me if I'm wrong, seem to have encouraged you to say, I'm okay with taking on this challenge, whatever it may be. Is that something that, you feel like, hey, I welcome the obstacle?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Oh.
I do.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah, it's just a great question, man. While coaching, I was playing professional soccer. I was coaching Howard at the same time. Okay? Now, to coach Howard University, you had to have had a bachelor's degree. I didn't have a bachelor's degree. I only had 32 credits. So I had to be in class doing 15 credits while coaching the soccer team. And the funny thing about it is that most of the guys in my class, soccer players, they were A students, and I was just hanging on with a C. It was difficult, but they used to, on road trips, they used to help me. And that was the strength of my coaching. I allowed them to help me, but when it came to soccer, I had a PhD in soccer. I was better as a professional player. I was better than all of them. As a matter of fact, they used to come and see me play on the professional level. So we had a mutual respect for one another, and that grew from time to time. Some of the courses I was doing in school, it was difficult. I never had done science, and I had to do anatomy and physiology. And I came up with a word called some muscle. It had about 27 words, 27 letters in the word. How am I going to understand that? I remember that. But I would there's always somebody in the circle that I could seek, and they will show me. And this muscle in particular, this old guy by the name of Kelvin Joseph, he said, Linko, that is easy. That muscle, not a problem. He said, do you know your anatomy? I said, yes. He said, where's your thorax? Right? Yeah. And he said, where's your clavicle? Here. And where's your mastoid process? He said, that muscle goes is attached from your thorax across your clavicle it's a thoracollidomastoid muscle. And it was so easy. It was so easy the way he told me. So the challenge of understanding something, I always had to go to somebody. And then I got to find out, wait a minute, if I know about the muscles and how they move, and I could make up my own exercises. Oh my God, it was beautiful. And now I started going back to 4th grade books, little infant books on anatomy and physiology where they have a lot of colors and all that. I became fascinated. I started liking school because, what I did in school helped me out. The psychology of coaching, it helped me out. And I started seeking all of these, what people call challenges, I just took them on. I just started to like them, you know, and anytime anything looked kind of easy, I would kind of question it, you know. I won't give me something hard, you know, like winning a championship. We, in the area, Washington area, we had American University, at Maryland University, at several universities. I said, we want to be the best university in soccer in the area, which was very, very tough. I said, and the region and in the nation. And everybody said, what are you talking about? Yes, we want to be the best in the nation. And you know what? The first year we went to the finals and we lost. Mm-hmm. But we knew then
we could get to the finals.
We can win.
Right.
Yeah. And the next year we won every game.
Right.
Every game. And looking back, in retrospect, I believe a message that we sent to the players and all players, especially in the HBCUs, okay? Set your goals high. Make it an impossible goal. Make your goals impossible, okay? And it's only impossible because it has never been done before.
Mm-hmm. So just to hit on that note, like fast forward, and I'll bring up an experience that reminds me of Make the Impossible. You had your knees replaced and your recovery time was unprecedented. Yes. Because did you pretty much live by that motto, set your goals?
Yeah.
So could you tell the audience about like...
Well, I had two these that eventually when I went to the doctor, as a matter of fact, your dad, who had a knee operation, a knee replacement, they said I could hardly walk. My legs were bowed so badly.
Yeah.
And I didn't know which one to bend. I decided to drag one. I was pitiful. And he told me, he encouraged me, he said, go see the doctor. Anyhow, I went to the doctor. The doctor said, well, here's the news. Your right knee is really bad and your left knee is worse. So he said, listen, let's operate on both of them at the same time. And at that time, nobody was doing that. If you had two knees, they would operate on one and wait until, maybe a year. He says, you're an athlete. Okay. And apparently he knew me. I don't know. He didn't know me from long ago, but he apparently sensed something in me. He says, you're an athlete. I don't want you to recuperate on a bad leg. So let's do both of them together. And the first day I was walking, then I went to rehab. And if the nurse asked me to walk 5 yards when she was not looking, I walked 15 yards. You see, whatever exercise they asked me to do, I did a little more. And while I was in my bed, I was moving my legs all the time. So after 6 days, they said, look, you ready to go? I came outside and with a month and a half, I was ready. I was walking, ready to get on a plane to go back to Trinidad. I never allow my legs to defeat me. I was never, ever defeated. I was never on my back, For a while, yes, but I bounced back. And I was, whatever my struggles were, I just attacked it with vigor, knowing that I'm in charge, not you. I'm in charge. And that came from growing up and all the experiences we had. And to me, in all of the challenges I've faced, that was the attitude that I went into them. Not, oh my goodness, why me? No. God sent this struggle to test me and prepare me for the next mission.
Mm-hmm. So, that actually leads to a great segue to, I guess, my next big question of, you spoke of how the messaging that you provided to your players how it resonated even in their life course. So for this podcast, and particularly the listeners who could be some of our early stage scholars in the field, academic scholars, and maybe grad students, undergrads that may be listening to us, particularly from HBCUs, what kind of messaging would you like to send them about, you talked about resiliency and perseverance and like just having these like goals that may seem unattainable, having that mindset. Like, what advice would you share to this younger generation, particularly Black academic scholars or professionals, on how to navigate some of the obstacles that they're likely going to face as they're trying to build their career in academia? I mean, you worked at an academic institution, so you've probably seen some of that.
Of course.
So what would be your advice to them?
The word understand is a huge word. Okay? If there's a problem in mathematics, if you understand it, you can get to the answer. If you don't understand it, you don't get to the answer. Black folks have got to understand the game, where we are. Okay? We will be discriminated. That's how the world is. Whether if a group of people gets on top, they want to keep others down, whether they're Black, brown, short, Catholic, whatever. Wherever there was civilization, there was always stratification. There was always. And we must understand that the folks are not going to like us. Folks are going to keep us back. Folks don't want us to show how good we are. So we must understand that. Not accept it, but we must understand it. And we must prepare for it. Okay? And we must set our goals high. Bruce Lee, one of the greatest martial arts individual in the world, he said that was his philosophy. Set your goals to impossible. And we as a people, I find that we set our goals, it's just too low. We go for the low-hanging fruit. No more low-hanging fruit, my friend. Okay? We got to go and look for the highest fruit. That's number one. Goal. Have respect for yourself. Respect yourself. Okay? We need to have more respect for each other. Self-esteem, I believe that we are doing very, very well with self-esteem. But the problem is group esteem.
That's very important. I agree.
Okay?
The cohesiveness.
Yes. Okay, working together as a group and understanding that this group is powerful. As powerful as any that ever put together. Believe in your group. If you believe in yourself, then let's believe in each other.
And actually, it speaks to, we've had this conversation before. I think sports helps to naturally feel that way.
Yes.
Playing in a team sports like soccer. So I think I remember having a conversation with you years back. I played soccer for the listening audience since I was, 3?
You had no choice because your dad was an avid soccer player, professional, and Uncle Lincoln was right there.
So I played at collegiate level. One time I almost, I tried out for the national team in Trinidad, but it was always something that even though I didn't go on to play professionally like you and my dad, it was always something, that messaging that I always took with me that still resonates in my academic career. As I run my research lab, I think of cohesiveness. This is a team. I find myself saying team. We got to work as a team.
Exactly. It's so important. It's so important. I coached, after I left Howard, I coached HBCU. This was about the worst soccer team I've ever coached in my life. And the first year we won 3 games out of 15. I mean, it was horrible. The second year we won 3, but we tied 7. We played better, but still. And the third year, I remember that moment. We had dinner at one of the players' parents. I mean, we started talking to us and the place got real quiet. It was really quiet. And he said, you guys, you are a good team. You're good players. But you must be of one accord. And that one accord, that hit me like a bell. Bang. one accord. He says, one drop of rain is inconsequential. So, but billions is a hurricane. It's powerful. If you band together, you're powerful. If you guys play for one another, and we just sat down there and lapped up what he said. When I got back to my office, I put on my door one accord. So I had on my door one accord. And the difference, that word to us, the difference was that particular season, we won 15 games. And we were the top 10 in the country. Okay? Basically the same team, but the belief that we playing for each other. We're interdependent.
Yeah.
You know, that just took us from average to way up in the air. It's a big word, one accord. And if we, the more we can do that, the better life we're going to see eventually. And what better way to really do that is to be engaged, especially early in life, in a team event. Very, very important. One accord.
And I just to, transfer it into our academic circles. I think of that one accord, for the listening audience. How do I pull this into what I'm doing now? It goes with the idea of, being with groups such as this HBC group for a GSA. That's an example of how a one accord system could work, working with, other researchers who also have a vested interest in the same mission, doing like collaborative interdisciplinary work together from a research side.
Exactly. That's
part of that one accord.
Exactly.
For our listeners who are trying to figure out, how do I implement that into my academic and research life? That's what I think of.
Yes.
Would you agree?
I definitely agree. This oneness of purpose and reaching out, thinking and knowing that you, in order to learn more, because you need to be a student of your profession. And if you're a student of your profession, you will reach out. Outside there, sometimes you have the answer right next to you, and you would not have known if you didn't have the ability and attitude of reaching out. Yeah. It doesn't matter who, red, white, black, if reach out and you can get information from people that you wouldn't believe that they would think that way. They will offer those experiences, Aim high, don't major in mediocrity, major at the highest level. If you have the capacity to be a doctor, just understand that that's not enough. You've got to have the will to do what it takes to be a doctor or to achieve whatever you want to achieve. So having the goal set and the capacity to get there, what will take you over the line is the will to get up 2:00 in the morning, study, go to another job, study, and no sleep at all. But you have to finish this research. You've got to have the will. And that's how you're going to be better than everybody. That's how you're going to be really, really successful in life. And the attitude, never give up. Never be defeated. Never give up. And the last one is adjustments. If you're going after something and you hit your head up against the wall, you get up and you try again. You hit it against the wall. But the third time, you have to ask yourself, the wall doesn't hurt. My head hurts. So there got to be another way to get around this wall. So if you go to the side of the wall, you might see a gate open. So whenever you're faced with a problem and you can't do it, pull back, approach it from another angle, and then say, it's easy. There's a ladder. I can get over the wall here. Okay? And look for another way, okay, to get over. And those are the things that if we as a people, if we do these things, we are bound to be successful. We're bound to be successful.
Well, I think all of those things have been powerful messaging that I think I've been hearing throughout my life course.
That's correct.
So for the people out there who know me well and those that don't know but know my work, a lot of these messagings, I think, have pretty much propelled me in the directions I've gone in throughout my career and how I approach things. So I thank you and thank my parents for those messaging, because I think it definitely has been challenges in building my academic and professional career. And definitely especially in the academic world, as Dr. Baker can attest to, we get feedback constantly in terms of our manuscripts. We're getting critiqued. Our presentations, when we go out there, we typically have a Q&A, and there's a critique part of that process. And then definitely when we write grants, there's critiquing involved. So sometimes, things don't pan out. Like, you don't get the grant, your paper gets rejected, and you have to have that ability to have that type of messaging that you just described to be able to kind of say, okay, let me regroup.
Yep.
And let me figure out a way that I can kind of tackle this to get to that goal, which is to get this manuscript published or to get this grant out, so that I could do the work that I think is beneficial for understanding the aging process, particularly for the work I do, working with older Black adult populations or populations that are typically underrepresented in science. That's like my goal. That's the mission. And so yes, there's going to be these obstacles of getting the grants or getting that manuscript out. But again, that messaging is what kind of helps keep that perseverance to kind of say, hey, yes, I didn't get it now, but doesn't mean I'm going to stop.
Yeah. And that's so important. And one last thing, I mean, all of this is very important. You're goal-oriented, you're resilient, and you're humble, and all these things are very important. But the one most important human factor that I feel that will take you over the top is humanity.
Mm-hmm.
The human factor. And when you get success, if you have the desire to go back and help other people successful, you have that humanness in you to help others to be successful. Okay? And a person with humanity, they can look into another person and come at the right time and give that person exactly what that person needs to be successful. They have that ability, that humanness. They serve the human beings and all that they look for. And somebody with humanity in their soul, if he's a doctor, he will be the best doctor. If he's a teacher, he will be the best teacher. If he's a soccer player, he'll be the best soccer player. Okay? Because he likes people, understands people, and those same people will do anything for him. So as a professional, invest in other people. Okay? And lastly, wherever you go, regardless of how far you reach, always look back. Always look back and pull somebody up.
Mm-hmm. So I think on that note, I feel like I want to end on such a powerful note and say thank you, Coach Phillips.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
For meeting with us to share your narrative, but also these really great perspectives.
Yes.
For our listening audience out there. And I can't even, say how much this is extremely appreciated. Your time today.
And I just also want to thank my immediate family, my wife, my kids. I mean, without them, I would never be able to be in a position to assist other people. So that our family structure is so important. Okay? Very, very important. Pay close attention to the family. Okay?
So, you're just hitting on everything.
Yeah.
In my adult and life course development course, you just hit on pretty much all the chapters, right, Dr. Baker?
Yeah, I'm over here taking notes. So I'm working as a team and adjustment, and, everything that you mentioned just resonates so well. And again, like Alyssa mentioned, this is our life in academia, and everything that you mentioned is exactly, what we've been through, what we're going through. And for the listening audience, I'm sure someone can resonate with exactly what you mentioned. So thank you again for your time. This has been amazing.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Wonderful.
And Alyssa, thank you very much. I'll love you with all my heart. and to see what you're doing, see what you've grown up, and to see what you're doing and where you are, it's just, it's mind-boggling. And I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy for the people you work with, the kids you work with, and it's just a win-win situation. God bless you, and may God go before you and make it safe and successful your way.
The Gerontological Society of America was founded in 1945 to cultivate excellence in interdisciplinary aging research and education to advance innovations in practice and policy. For more information about GSA, visit geron.org. GERON.org.